Welcome to the Troubled Artist Podcast, Episode 27, Amelia Mahrie.
Welcome back to the Troubled Artist Podcast. Today I am here with actress Amelia Mahrie. Amelia is based here in Chicago and has starred in numerous award-winning short films. She maintains an active presence in productions of both film and theater, while also attending Columbia College Chicago to major in acting and minor in stage combat. Amelia was born in Racine, Wisconsin, but has lived abroad in both Malaysia and Germany for several years. So Amelia, thank you so much for being on the show. So before I begin, I do like to ask this one question. Tell us in your own words, who is Amelia Mahrie?
Oh, what a question. Thank you for having me onto your podcast. I'm really excited to be here. Who is Amelia? Amelia is, I'm a creative, I'm an artist. I love storytelling. I love theater. I love film. I'm a very passionate person, and so I'm really thankful to be on here to talk about all the things that I love.
Yeah, and I'm excited to get into those things. And again, I'm really excited and I've seen your work. And again, you have such incredible talent and I want to just get into that. So first, I just want to ask, just like the general question of how did you get into acting? Was it something you discovered early in life or later on in life? Just tell us about that.
Yeah. I think it was always kind of something in my life. I was a very imaginative kid, and so I grew up just playing out these stories in my head and reading books, writing books. I grew up in Racine, Wisconsin for the majority of my childhood, and the first neighborhood that I lived at had this wonderful like wooded neighborhood, and so as a kid it felt super fantastical, and like I could just run outside and make up all of these games and all of these stories and all these characters to just kind of play around as. And so I think my imagination has always been something that I've relied on and that I have found comfort in. And so then as I got older and I was introduced to shows and movies, I just put myself in those worlds then. And so that was just the next best thing for myself in my mind. I grew up very athletic. I played a ton of sports growing up,
Oh,
um, independently and at the schools that I went to. And so it wasn't really until I moved abroad to Malaysia where I attended an international school that had all of this funding for the arts. And they had a proper theater, and that was the first time that I was introduced to that community. And then I said, this is what I've been wanting to do. I finally like put a name to it. It's theater, it's acting. Um, and then I kind of said goodbye to sports and just stuck with playing pretend ever since. And that was, I think, when I was 14, maybe like sixth grade, was when I was in my first show.
and you said that you currently are here in Chicago, right? You go to college at Columbia College, Chicago?
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah.
yeah. I go to Columbia.
Hmm. No,
Sorry,
that's
go.
cool.
What were you gonna say?
No, I'm just saying that that's really cool because I'm also here in Chicago and my top two choices were it was either for me Columbia College Chicago or DePaul University, and I ended up going with DePaul University. But my cousin actually he went to Columbia College Chicago, and yeah, it
Oh,
was just
really?
but we both graduated back in 2021. We had to deal with the whole COVID situation.
Time is so weird. I came into college in 2022, I think. And so I had just missed all of the pandemic COVID things that took over the classroom. And I think acting over Zoom is so incredibly hard. And so I know my entire experience would have been very different. But I'm a senior now. I'm graduating early. I'll be done this winter. And so I've made the most of my time at Columbia. Yeah. I was between Columbia and Roosevelt, because I knew that I really wanted to come to Chicago for college, and I had these last two meetings with like the department heads of theater, and I went into Roosevelt and I was like, hey, I'm just gonna be super transparent. I'm coming here for an education, but I'm also planning on working as an actor and sharing both a life of school and classrooms and also independently working at the same time. And I asked Roosevelt if they would be open to like supporting me in that. And they told me to go to Columbia. And I was like, okay, great. My decision's been made. Like it was really easy because they're like, yeah, Columbia is the place that's gonna support you in your independent endeavors. And also they have a stage combat minor here that I also pursued, and that was just so much fun. So yeah, I think I made the right choice. I'm pretty confident that I did.
Yeah, no, it was a great school. Because I actually took some high school classes over at Columbia College, like during like the summertime.
Oh,
Um, and I
yeah.
remember it being like one of my top choices, but one of my teachers at the high school that I went to, she was friends with someone who was a DePaul alumni, and they were looking for production assistants
Mhm.
because he was working on like his thesis film, and I volunteered to help out. And when I was on set, a lot of the people
Yeah.
working there were also DePaul alumni, and they talked about DePaul. And I remember I heard about it, but I didn't like have a tour yet, and learn about like the film school that they had. So I remember just
Hmm.
learning about DePaul from them, and then eventually I went to the open house, saw like the CDM school and Cinespace and all that, and then I was just like, oh, okay, I think this is where I want
Loves
to
Tennessee.
go. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, it was really cool because again, both schools were great learning experiences for me, and yeah, it's
Mhm.
great to again like the students that I met there were great and awesome, and I still connect with them here and there, but yeah, overall it was just a great learning experience, and it was a little challenging, like I said, because when I was at DePaul, it was during COVID, and some of the classes I had were virtual, but we got through it. We still had our projects to stay creative. I remember one point we had to make an entire film on Zoom, and it was a little bit of a challenge, but we
Oh,
got it done.
no way.
Yeah, but we got it done. It was a great learning experience for me. But yeah, it was really cool, and eventually I submitted that to several film festivals here in Chicago and in other places. And I want to get back to you, and
Dang.
I want to talk about the projects that you've done. And I'm just gonna name a list of projects that you've done so far, and I want to talk about
Oh,
those.
please.
So the first ones are
Let's spill
being
all of the information.
So the ones that I've seen were Silent Sonata, Witch Hunt, The Song of Lake, Together, Reasonable Doubt, The Key, The Tie That Binds. And I noticed that all of those films, they were all done by one person, Daniel Pico, right? Of Pico Boulevard.
Yeah, that's the filmmaker that I work with, and we have this cohort of Wisconsin filmmakers. We do all of the Wisconsin 48-hour projects together.
Yeah.
And so
Awesome.
they have two events in Wisconsin per year. They have the classic, like traditional 48, and then they have in October the thriller sci-fi version of it. Very fitting for Halloween. And then if you qualify, if you place in the top three in any of those events, then I think it's in November this year, but usually it's in December. You have the Yes We Can competition where the top three from locations all around the world compete. And so we've made quite a bit of short films together, all in the span of 2 days. And I love working with that team. We just I mean Daniel and everyone that's usually involved in the 48s. We made our first feature together this summer, and so that was a big uh success and challenge, and it just felt right for all of us to put our resources and our talents together to make something independently for ourselves.
Yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, it's also amazing that all of those films they were done in 48 hours. Because yeah,
Yeah.
because I've seen them, and like the quality, like the cinematography is really well done, and of course the acting, of course you did
Hmm.
a phenomenal job. And I mean, I remember one I'll mention, Silent Sonata, where it's all, you don't say anything because your character lost her hearing in a car accident. And I've always enjoyed films that are like, show don't tell, because, I enjoy like
Hmm.
writing dialogue and stuff and hearing people talk and all that, but it's always difficult as a writer, just to find the right words. So,
Yeah,
if you could tell a
sure.
story that's like a short film, practically little to no dialogue, those are the short films that I enjoy, not just watching, but I also enjoy making those types of short films, because I'm more of like in the
Hmm.
drama genre. Like I like to make drama short films, and I've done a couple of like documentaries and comedies and stuff like that, but I'm more like into the dramas. So I was curious to know
Nice.
just what is like your preparation when you get a role? Like, let's say you got a script and you read it and it's really good, and you say yes to the project. So what's sort of your preparation when you've accepted a role?
That's a fantastic question. It depends on the film, on the character, how much time I have between when I'm brought on and when we start filming. So for the 48s, I have little to no preparation, which I kind of like because I don't I don't have time to overthink or be nervous or anything. I'm given the script and we're immediately shooting. And specifically for this group, I was lucky enough to be added as a co-writer, and so Daniel and I, the past several 48s that we've done, we've co-written it together. Um, and that's always a really unique and fun process of getting to craft the character that I'm playing, but also just the story and the arc and everything that goes on in the film and the making of it. But um for films where we have this extended timeline, yeah, it really depends. Sometimes I'll get a character and I'll be prepping for an audition and I'll feel like I know them. I had the opportunity to play one character. Her name was Dixie. Oh, and she was so much fun. She was like fierce and so confident and like kind of sadistic, and she just like leapt off of the page, and I was like, I know exactly how to play her. Um I like got the audition for it, and I immediately set up my self-tape equipment. I was like, I'll memorize it right now. We're shooting it right now. I just really liked her. Um, and then I'll get characters where I'm like, oh, she's very, very different than me. And so I have to do a little bit of not that I'm sadistic and crazed like Dixie, but I'll get characters where I have to take a little more time to craft them and like really flesh out their relationships with the characters and what they're doing in this world. I really enjoy playing characters who um have a lot of drive in them, and who have an impact on the things that happen to themselves. And so when I get characters that are less forceful, that's kind of when I have to sit back and be like, okay, so they're a quieter soul. How does their mind work? How do their thoughts work? If they're more passive, then I find myself doing more preparation in the pre-production stage. And that preparation can be various different things. Sometimes it's writing things down in a journal, like a diary entry, or mapping out the exact timeline. I've had scripts sent to me where I know we're going to be shooting out of order chronologically. And so I'll map out their entire day from like day 1 to day 7 in the course of the film. And maybe we'll focus on days like 1, 3, 5, 6, 7 in the film. And then all the days where the film kind of lets those days go by so they can pick up more of the story later on. I'm writing down everything she does in those days and the interactions that she has, the conversations, the thoughts, just everything that's kind of thrown her way that the audience doesn't see. And then I also going back to imagination and like living in my mind and making up these worlds and these characters, I I tend to obsess over my characters in a very loving way. Like I grow very emotionally attached to them. And so I'll just be thinking of them all the time. I played Laertes and Hamlet at my college 2 years ago, I think. Um, and that was a character that I just fell in love with him. And I was constantly thinking about like him and his upbringing and his relationship with his sister and his dad. And like I would just be falling asleep, like daydreaming about him and his life. And I do that with a lot of my characters. And so I just spend a lot of waking moments thinking about them, hearing their voice, and I don't necessarily have to write it down because it's all just living in my head. So it really depends on the character, but I do tend to get rather obsessive over my characters because I love them so much.
Oh, no, that's great to hear, and it's really cool that you have such a creative process, like you said, writing these journal entries and, mapping out like their
Mm-hmm.
storylines. I think that's really important to hear, Also, like obviously as an actress, but also hearing that to a director, when a director hears that and knowing that the actress or the actor is fully committed to learning this character is really great because yeah, as a director, I'm very collaborative and I do like to, sort of sit down with my actors or actresses and I like to talk about, okay, like, here's the scene, like, how are you feeling, and I feel like it's great just to sort of bring them into, the world or like the scene that we're filming in particular. Um, I guess I did want to ask you, like, what are some qualities that you look for in a director?
Oh, I mean, that's great. I love to stalk people online. Especially when I'm self-submitting to projects. I really become a detective and I really look at the people um and their projects that they've done, the genres that I feel that they gravitate towards, that I like to see everything in their portfolio as I'm auditioning because then I think that is a sign of, okay, do our thoughts and artistic instincts, do they match? Are they clicking? Um, and I really just like talking to people, especially in the beginning phases of auditioning. If I like a script, if I really feel drawn to the sides, I'll reach out and ask for the script because then I'll want to flesh out my audition as much as possible, but I also just enjoy reading scripts and reading the stories that people want to put together and create and are passionate about. I have this I had this agreement that I would make with directors. I made it with Daniel because the 48s are wildly intimidating when you're just starting out. And I had seen a film of his prior. I'd worked with another team for my first 48, and then they weren't planning on returning. And I saw his submission, like their teams, and just thought it was amazing. And I have to shout out one of the actors. She's a really great friend of mine now, but her name is Maureen Jansen, I want to say her last name is. I saw her performance in their film The Wait. Yes, Maureen Jansen. She's one of my great friends now. Um, I saw her performance in their film The Wait, and I was starstruck. I was like, I want to work with her so bad. I want to be a scene partner with her. And so I reached out to Daniel and I expressed interest, and they brought me on board. And I remember the first time that we worked together was on the film Together.
Mhm.
And the first, I didn't play a very happy character in this film. She was contemplating suicide at the beginning, and that's a crazy scene to like break the ice with this new director, who's now one of my wonderful friends and one of my favorite collaborators. But I remember pulling him aside and being like, promise me we're not going to move on until you get the take that you want. And he was like, okay, I promise. And then I also I worked with him to get into the mental space, and I just felt very safe and very trusting. But since then, I've liked to make that agreement with my directors, especially when I know we're going to be filming on a tight schedule with lots of components, and we'll feel very rushed, I'm sure, the day of. I like to meet with them prior, and usually when we're discussing the script and characters and whatnot, and I make them promise to me that we're not going to move on until they're happy with my performance and until they've got a take that they're like, this is what I want to use. Because then that takes the insecurity out of my mind. Because, I mean, very rarely is there time for compliments on set. Um, and part of me believes there's always time to just be like, hey, that was fantastic, exactly what I'm looking for. But the director's a million different places mentally on sets. And so it just takes the weight off of making them tell me that I did a good job in these really weird scenes that we'll always be filming, and like acting so vulnerable and so awkward at times, and like it's a goofy way to be spending my life, and I love it. But to save myself from getting insecure, I have that agreement with a director that I just make sure that we're on the same page about. And it's more so for me in my mind. But I love open communication. I love being able to pick their mind, asking them so many questions about the scripts, the characters, why they're doing the things that they do. Like I like to interview the director a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, I love to send them questions at night like, hey, why do you think my character is doing this? I don't really understand this. Do you want to? Oh, okay, I get it now. And so I just think that the collaboration is the thing that always excites me the most about film. And theater and working with all of these people. And so someone with great communication, someone who's genuinely excited by their projects and like will nerd out to me about them. Like I love a nerdy director. I really, really do, because I'm a nerdy actor. And so I feel like I connect best with people who are so passionate about their stuff. And are really excited to bring me on board because they know I'm going to be equally as passionate. Um, but yeah, I always like to think of the director as my other half on set, who is able to watch and say, yep, you're doing exactly what I need. You will be proud of this. And I can just say, good, I'm going to be proud of this. And then we can carry on. I love working behind the scenes. I've co-written scripts, but then I've also been scripty, and I've been a PA, and I've helped produce films, and I'm always open and have provided feedback for rough cuts in the editing room, and like being an assistant to the art director. And so I feel like getting insight into other positions on film sets allows you to respect them more, and also inform your job differently, and in a way where you're like, yes, we're all working in unison together. And so I feel like taking on the role of director, DP, editor, actor, like all these things, while challenging, also makes you better in each individual position. Like if you just want to focus on directing for the rest of your career, having done the DP work and the acting work prior allows you to communicate better with them. I don't know. I think there's something brilliant about branching out and trying new positions on a film set, because they all do have to work in unison together.
Yes, definitely. And I think everybody, it's so important. Everybody has an important part when it comes to your film, even if it's someone as simple as a production assistant, you know. Those are like very hardworking people, you know. They do like those little things that you would never
Yeah.
think of, but they get a lot of important stuff done, because it's not just the director or the actor as many audiences may think, you know, because when you sit down and you watch a film, you know, you're seeing obviously the visuals and the performance, you know, but there's so much that goes into it, like the art directors, and like I said, the production assistants, you know, the costume designers, hair and makeup, you know, there's so much to the filmmaking process, you know. And I want to talk about, because you've done so much great work. What have been some of the highlights so far in your acting career so far?
That's such a hard question. I don't know, because looking at highlights as from a career point of view, there's so many films that have come my way where in the moment they were the exact building block that I needed in order to learn something or try something that worked really well for me. I think this past summer was a highlight for me career-wise, because I did 4 feature films over the summer. I did 1 or 2 short films. I did a spec ad. I did like all of these things, and it allowed me to sit back and realize I am a consistently working actor. And like that's a huge achievement in itself, because the industry is so hard and so trying. And especially as of late with the pandemic and the strike and all these things, like it's hard to stay working consistently. And especially in Chicago, where there are fewer opportunities and a huge industry here, and I always feel like people need to be taking advantage of Chicago more and the talent here. But yeah, I just remember, because I also spent a lot of summer with my mom. It was the greatest summer ever, honestly. And I really cherished the moments that I had with her, all the things, the adventures that we went on. But I remember kind of sitting back and being like, wow, I am doing what I've been trying to do since I started acting, which is working on project after project after project. And they were all projects that I was so excited to do. And I played a variety of characters, a variety of genres. I remember I kicked off the summer by going to Indiana to film a movie with Leanne Johnson, who's a brilliant Midwest creative and actor and filmmaker, and she is like such an inspiration to watch. I acted with her in my first ever short film that I did when I was a junior or senior in high school, and we've just stayed in contact since. And then she had written this story and this part, and she asked me to read it if I was interested. And so I went to Indiana to film this, and it was a family-based film. I would classify it as a drama, which we both established we love dramas. And that was a very demanding shoot, a very fast-paced shoot. I loved it. And then I ran back to Wisconsin to film a feature. I think it was in Beloit, so it's like right on the edge between Illinois and Wisconsin. And I got to play a college student who was in this ethics club. It was called Colt College, and the entire filming process with this cast was amazing. You mentioned improv earlier. This film shoot was so unique because they had sent us the script, but they wanted it to feel like a documentary of sorts. Like these kids are just capturing themselves on their phones, or in these debates that they had for the ethics bowls. And so it was meant to feel very candid, very natural. And so we would do the scenes as written in the script, lines memorized, everything. And then they would encourage us, okay, throw away the scripts. You know the lines. You know how to get from point A to point B. You know how to do the scene, essentially. Just go for it. Like, just have fun. Say whatever comes to your mind. Pick up on each other's words. Like, just be very present. And that was such a fun project to be a part of because I really felt like I was just living in my character with these people. And it was just such a gift. And I remember there was one moment where, so a lot of our characters are in this ethics bowl, and so we were practicing for debates, and I remember they were like, okay, great, you did the scene. Now we're just gonna give you some questions to debate as a group, so like be ready for them. And we all kind of sat up and was genuinely writing things down in our notebooks, like, oh, we have to actually pay attention and be ready to debate with each other. And that was really fun, just as a acting exercise alone. Like, whether or not they use any of the footage in there, I just feel like as a cast we really bonded together by playing and responding to each other. And so this past summer, I had so many incredible projects to be a part of. And I remember being very thankful. And I remember that being a highlight of my career to this date, of just, yes, I can be a working actor and I can do this for a living. And I want to do this for a living. It was just a nice moment of reflection for me.
Nice. Yeah, like that's great to hear that you're doing it. I do want to talk about, because we mentioned like the highlights, and every artist, we always have like those sort of struggles that we have in our lives. So if you want to talk about just what have been some of those struggles that you faced in your acting career.
So many. Oh my goodness. Oh. I mean, it's so easy to talk about all the things that you wish would have happened or panned out. I don't know, like this, again, acting is so incredible, but it's also really vulnerable and really hard because there's so much rejection involved in just trying and putting yourself out there. And so I think, I mean, I will always be working on the way that I process things mentally and the way that I accept rejection and understand that the opportunity wasn't meant for me. And I think that takes a lot of time and a lot of maturity, and it's really something that I am actively working on, and I will continue to work on for my entire life, because it's very easy to let yourself believe that, oh, I haven't booked anything in a bit, and so I'm done. Like, that was my course, that was my run. And it's because, I'm dramatic and I have no patience, and it's why I love acting. And it's just like, it's having to kind of be a little more reasonable with yourself and hold yourself accountable, and also check yourself when you're spiraling. And when you're like, hey, it's okay that you didn't get that, because something else is going to come along, or you need that time to do other things. Like, you need that time to just be a human and socialize. And socializing is something that I'm so quick to replace with acting. And you really need to grow the friendships in your lives and like make those human connections and go to that party and go to that lunch and go on that holiday with your family. Like, it's just, that was a lesson that I learned quite recently, was I can't always be giving myself to my art as much as I love it, and as much as I will always feel the pressure to put it above everything. I also have to remember that I'm a human being, and I really care about the people in my lives, and so I have to put them first and make them a priority. And so that was a challenge that I realized I was struggling with. And also, again, rejection and everything. But I think it's important to just hold yourself accountable and realize that you can put yourself first above your craft when you need to.
That's really great to hear. Yeah, finding balance in like your creative life and your personal life, I think is very important, because, if you kind of put one over the other, that sort of thing, if you put your personal life, then you kind of lose like creative spark in you, or if you put creative side of your creative art of it, then you kind of lose like that personal side, so there, I think, yeah, definitely finding
Mhm.
that balance is very important, and do you also have like any other advice, especially for like actors that are just starting out that you want to give?
Advice. I'm always of the opinion that you are your own biggest advocate. I will always be the one rooting for myself the most. And I will always be the one working the hardest to ensure that I get where I want to go. And so I always just encourage people to have that same mentality for themselves, to send that cold email, to make that introduction, to post that clip of yours that you are so proud of and that you want it to be seen by everybody. I just think in this world especially, it's your career and only you can decide what projects you want to be a part of and who you want to work with, and you're not going to meet them unless you open the room and open the door and walk into the room. And so that's the primary advice that I give to anyone who's like, hey, I don't really know what to do. And also just ask questions, reach out to the people who are at the level that you hope to be and that you think that's where you're going to go next. And listen to them. Never be the smartest one in the room. Always know that you can learn something from someone. I think that's the main advice that I have to give is yeah, really put yourself out there. And also look out for everyone around you. I can't tell you how many projects that somebody's been casting for and have reached out to me and been like, "Hey, I'm really struggling to find an actor to play this role. Who do you have?" And I love being like, oh, this person's great for it. This person, I picture them. I pictured them when I was reading the sides. Like, you should absolutely have them read for the role. I also get a lot of satisfaction advocating for other people and pairing people up. And so it's also important to look out for the people in your life that you would vouch for and that inspire you. And I think we all have to kind of build one another up all around. That was a very cheesy answer, I feel like, but it's also a very truthful answer. Like, it's genuinely what I believe.
No, yeah, no, definitely. Like, maybe it sounds cheesy, but it's important to hear that, especially if you hear it like enough, it'll finally sink in with people like, you know what, they're right, or
Mhm.
that's why I always feel like as artists in general, we are very powerful people because we have ways to change the perspective of audiences that can see our work, whether it's a film or a painting or a book or whatever it is, maybe someone could see it and be like, okay, that's fine, whatever. But there are some people that can look at that and it could just totally like inspire them to want to be like that person, or to, be the character in that book or film, or to be like the author or filmmaker that made it. It can, set them up for wanting to do something that creative wise in the future, and reaching out to those people and, like you said, asking questions and hearing their response and what they have to say, is very important. And even if they don't respond back, it's good to know that you tried. And I feel like that's always important
Mhm.
because sometimes we have those moments in our lives where we don't even try. Like, we're so scared to, like, post like that self tape, or we're scared to show just our film out to the world because we're always like,
Mhm.
oh man, what if they don't like it? What if they, what if they, this or that, and sometimes you just gotta, suck it up and just put your art out in the world. I am curious, like, you mentioned like some feature films that you've done. Is there any other like projects that you currently have in the works right now?
I'm currently in a show right now at Columbia.
Oh, nice.
Um, I'm playing Iphigenia in Iphigenia and Other Daughters. It's like a Greek retelling of the Iphigenia myth, and Electra's also featured in it very heavily, as well as like all their family and everything. It's a fascinating family, and so it's been really fun to bring them to life. We had our first performances this past week, and then we're on to our second week of performances this week. And so it'll be very bittersweet to wrap it up because we've been rehearsing since like September. And this is my last show at Columbia, and so it's a good one to go out on because it's directed by Stephanie Shaw, and I adore her. I think she's brilliant, and she's one of my favorite professors at Columbia, and so being able to work with her has just been fantastic. And then once we close November 1st, I'm back in my film era. I really love to jump between film and theater because I get different things from each medium. And so then I'll be back in film. I got a couple things lined up in November. A lot of really cool films. I'm rehearsing for one of them right now. And that's more of an improv. We're finding the script in the rehearsals, which is great. We had a script sent to us, and then I came together with the other actor, and we're just workshopping it with the director, finding what works, finding the flow and the climaxes and everything. And so I've really been enjoying rehearsing for a film because usually you aren't gifted with rehearsals for a lot of cinematic stuff, and so that's been really, really fun. So I'm booked and busy and very blessed, and will be sad to say goodbye to the theater momentarily, but I will be back into film, which will be very exciting.
Oh man, that's great to hear. I'm glad that you have a bunch of projects lined up, and again, I wish you continued success with that. And hey, who knows if there's
Thank
ever
you.
a time, if there's ever a time where you're free, I'd love to work with you on a project because, like I said,
Goodness.
because
I mean, any script that you have in the works, and then you have to promise me that you won't move on until we got the take that you're happy with, and then we're set, and then we can work together 100%.
Here we go. Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, I want to ask like just more like general acting questions. Just stuff that comes to mind, and maybe it's people that have asked you these questions as well when they find out that you're an actor or an actress. I guess the first one is being an actress. Who's your favorite actress that you would want to work
Oh, you
with or
can't
that you
answer
want?
this.
I know it's a I
Oh,
know.
I have no idea. See, I was prepped with the "What's your favorite film?" I was prepped for that question,
Yeah,
and I
I was
don't
gonna ask you
know.
that next, but
Okay, great. I'll talk about that after, and I'll nerd out about it. What actors do I love? I remember one of the first times that I was watching something, and I kept watching it for the actor. I love American Horror Story, but Jessica Lange in American Horror Story is a different breed of an actor. Her name's Jessica Lange, right? Yes, I'm fairly confident. It's been a while since I've looked at it, since I've watched the show. But I just remember being starstruck by her and her performances, and she was playing these characters that I had never seen on screen before, just the way that she was commanding the scene. And I think she inspired me a lot when it came to the kind of characters that I craved and that I was looking to play. Very powerful women. And so I remember I adored her performances. Um, what are the other actors that I really look up to? I'm a massive fan of the show Severance. I'm going as Mark S. from Severance for Halloween. So I have my whole costume set up. It'll be great. I'm gonna get a blue band-aid, a blue lumen band-aid, and put it on my forehead. It'll be great. And every single actor in Severance, I can confidently say that I look up to and I admire and inspire me. Um, I love I love pieces that are so ensemble heavy, and I think that's the theater kid in me. I love being a part of projects where it is about all of the characters involved. And like I would love to be in a show like Severance one day, or like Succession, or something where it the spark that happens on screen is because of the wit that all the characters share with each other, and the way that they all flow and speak to each other. I just think it's fascinating, and it becomes like music. And so I love shows and movies that are ensemble based. And what a great segue. My favorite film of all time is Little Miss Sunshine. And I think it is the perfect film that has ever been made. I've seen it a million times now. And I just think it's a perfect film. And I have no notes, no complaints. I think everyone is fantastic. I think every technical aspect is fantastic. You're nodding your head. Have you seen Little Miss Sunshine?
Of course, I've seen Little Miss Sunshine. Great film, Steve
And do you
Carell.
love it?
Yeah, of course I love
Ah,
it. Everyone did a great job. Steve Carell, Abigail Breslin, Alan Arkin, the whole ensemble, like you said, it all plays together so well. They're all
mhm.
like a big happy family, and then at the end of the film, when they're encouraging, they're dancing, it brings a smile to my face. And yeah, such a
Mhm.
great film. And yeah, the other shows you mentioned, Severance, American Horror Story, also great shows. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's a lot of great content out there. Um, but yeah, so you mentioned, yeah, your show and your movie. I guess I could tell you mine. It's again, it's
Oh,
always very
please, please.
it's always very challenging because every time I tell someone I'm into film, what's your favorite film? That sort of thing. And
Naturally, have to be prep.
and then I always name like a bunch of films, but one that I always mention is The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't know if you've seen that
Oh,
one.
I know of it. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's a great film. It's directed by Alejandro G. Iñárritu, who also did Birdman, which was another great film.
Oh,
Mhm.
yes. Love Birdman.
Yeah, yeah, a great film. I think yeah, that one Best Picture back in like 2014 or
Mhm.
when it was released, it won Best Picture. But yeah, The Revenant is a great film. That was the film that also got Leo his first Oscar, so I was happy for that.
There you
Um,
go. Mhm.
what other films? I really like I like Pearl with Mia Goth. Another
Pearl was
great
great.
film.
Yes.
Hmm.
I just watched that one not too long ago, and I couldn't believe that I didn't watch it when it was in theaters. Um, I'm a big horror movie fan, big psychological thriller fan. I really love unhinged characters, and so Pearl was right up my alley.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I'm not like a huge horror person, but I really enjoyed it just for the sake of Mia Goth's performance. It was just, oh, so,
Incredible.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, it was so crazy. And I remember just hearing that buzz about like, oh, she should have got nominated for an Oscar or something like that. But, you know,
And she should have. And she should have.
yeah, but I don't know. I guess like the Academy, I don't know. The Academy doesn't really award a lot to horror films, which I mean,
No, they don't.
I don't know
No, they
why. I
don't.
mean, there's a whole fan base of horror films and a lot of people that are committed to just making horror films and stuff like that. So it's such a large community that I think needs to be showcased more. So
I was just gonna say, because I was thinking back to some recent horror movies that I've seen. Um, what's the most? It was Bring Her Back. I think that's what it's called. Um, I think you might like this one because it's a drama that is a horror movie, but it's based in drama and like grief. And my computer is almost about to die right now, so let me plug that in while I tell you all about Bring Her Back. I watched it recently because it was on my list of films that I wanted to see. And that one surprised me because I was going into it expecting for, a horror movie and good jump scares and whatnot. And then I found myself bawling my eyes out in the last couple minutes. And so I would recommend that. It's a very good drama. It's got great gore, so only watch it if you're good with gore. But that's a recommendation that I have for you.
yeah, I gotta check it out. I'll add that to my. Do you have a like Letterboxd? You know what Letterboxd is?
Well, of course I know what Letterbox is. Do you want to know my Letterbox top four? Let me pull them
Yeah.
up.
I was just gonna say because I'll put
Now
that
I
on
get to
my.
live out my dreams. Oh yes, put it on your watch list. But now I get to live out my dreams of telling you my top four on Letterbox. So it's Little Miss Sunshine. And I might have to change it because Gremlins isn't in here anymore. But Gremlins is in my top four. I was raised off of that movie. The soundtrack is incredible. I love it with all my heart. That one's up there. Dog Day Afternoon, starring Al
Mm,
Pacino.
yep.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's my nerdy cinephile one that I'll share. And then I have La La Land in there right now. I think I'm gonna replace Gremlins with La La Land. Don't tell anybody I said that. I also have the animated Nomeo and Juliet film,
Oh.
the like kids
Okay.
movie.
Yeah.
The
No.
amount of Shakespeare pun in that movie is astounding. I love it. It's so clever. It's so funny. And then if I'm gonna add a fifth one, it's gonna have to be, I just recently watched it. National Treasure starring Nicolas Cage.
Oh, of
Also was
course.
raised off of that film. Classic.
Mhm.
Untouchable. It's so good.
Oh yeah, Nicolas Cage, yeah, phenomenal
I'm ready for number
actor.
4. Phenomenal actor.
Is there anything else before we sign off? Is there anything else that you want to mention? Any last minute thoughts?
I don't know if I have any closing statements or words. I'm really thankful for the opportunity to come on here and nerd out and talk about films and acting. And yeah, I always just get excited when I'm able to talk about my art and my passion and what I love to do. And so it's cool to have opportunities like this. So thank you.
Of course, definitely. It was great talking with you, Amelia, and like I said, you have such great work. You have such great range as well. Like especially because you mentioned like films like Together, where there are tears coming down your eyes, and you know, it's just
Oh, I
getting
love
to.
playing sad characters.
It's really great because sometimes it's hard for people to get to like that emotional level. It's I'm sure it's very challenging
Yeah, sure.
for people to like cry on cue or something like that. Are you able to do that? Just curious, like cry on cue, or like what's like
Uh,
your sort of preparation when it comes to like getting to like that level of
what's my
emotion?
trick? Oh, I don't know. It was all in practice, all in training. I have such an interesting relationship with crying as my characters. Because when I was younger, I put a lot of pressure on like, okay, and I need to learn how to cry now because they're gonna expect that from me. I'm gonna walk on a set and they're gonna be like, okay, cry right now, and I'll have to be able to do it. And and yes, I've worked up to the point now where I can utter some tears when needed. And but I think it's also now in my mind a little more like, are tears deserving? Because I think as an audience member, it's equally as powerful to watch someone fight their tears and not want to break. And that can be more powerful than watching just the tears flow down someone's face. And so now I get to play around with, okay, well, do I want to cry in this scene? Do I think it would be more powerful to resist and to not cry? But like tricks when it comes to crying, I think I I had a really unhealthy short film that I was in. Just mentally for me, where my character she went through so much, and um this was when I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to cry on the spot. And I went to a really messed up place mentally that I would never encourage another actor to go to. And it was not good. It was not good. I had to step away from set. And this was just a short film that my friends and I were making freshman year of college. And so, um, it was I was putting way too much pressure on myself. But ever since that moment, I was like, okay, it's going to be a healthy skill set that I'm going to be able to access when needed. And so now it's more about the physical elements of like what gets me to cry, like the breathing. And like I've never had I just think I think crying is so healthy. And so a lot of the ways that I dispel my emotions is to have a good cry, and I love it. And so, um, I've trained myself a little bit where it's more of just a physical sensation of, okay, and this is how tears are made. And then obviously when you're in the moment and your heart is racing because you're acting off of someone, and the stakes are high and your character is feeling uncomfortable and distressed, and then everything kind of falls into place. But sorry, that was a long-winded answer. You asked me a question that I love being asked because I went through this whole journey of like, okay, Amelia needs to cry. Amelia doesn't need to cry. Amelia can cry in a healthy way. And so I love talking about it because I think it's ironically also a question that I think it's the question that I'm asked most when somebody finds out that I'm an actor. Is they're like, "Oh, you're an actor. Can you cry on command? Can you cry for me right now?" I'm like, "No, I get paid to cry. What are you doing?" So I think everybody is fascinated by people by actors specifically, and being asked to cry and go to all those mental spaces. And I always think it should be treated in a healthy way. That's my long-winded nerd answer. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. Just like your process of that, and don't worry, I'm not going to ask you cry on command. But it's just great just to
Oh my God.
it's just great to hear that, because I was, yeah, honestly, I was just really just curious on that, because you have played characters of that emotional level. So yeah, it's just really great to
Mhm.
see that, and that you're doing it now in a healthy manner. So you're continuing that, and just continuing doing what you love. But yeah, I mean, if there's nothing else, Amelia, again, thank you so much for being on the show. I really do appreciate it. If you ever want to work together, we can, send me a message.
Oh
I'd
yeah,
love
we'll
to.
work together in the future. The fans are gonna go crazy. We'll be on set together soon. I'm sure. I'm sure. The stars will align.
Thank you for tuning in to the Troubled Artists podcast. Have a great day.